Welcome to the Neurokrish Immersion. This episode discusses the origins of Maya. We are exploring the birthplace of Vedanta's most elusive idea, a concept that has captivated philosophers, contemplatives, and seekers for millennia. This journey takes us into the heart of non-dual philosophy through narrative, paradox, and careful reasoning. Let's go back to the story of Narada and Krishna. Not a metaphor, not an allegory. A story that Indian philosophy has used for centuries to point toward one of its most elusive ideas. If you've ever wondered what philosophers really mean by Maya, not illusion in the casual sense, but something far more subtle, this story is where we should begin. This tale comes to us from the Bhagavata Purana and other texts recounted by teachers across generations. It speaks not through argument but through lived experience, inviting us to recognize something profound about the nature of reality itself. Krishna makes a simple request. Narada, I'm thirsty. Could you fetch me some water? The task seems utterly ordinary. A short walk, a simple act of service by going to the well nearby. Narada, the devoted sage, sets off immediately, water pot in hand. What could be simpler? What could possibly go wrong? Yet, this moment, this utterly unremarkable moment, becomes the threshold of an experience that will shake the foundations of Narada's understanding. Beside the well is a young woman. She smiled. Not flirtatiously, not strategically, she just smiled. She spoke. She asked ordinary questions. Where are you from? What brings you here? Narada answered, and somehow, without drama, without a grand decision, Narada stayed on. This is how it happens, not through manipulation, but through gentle accumulation of moments. The conversation that becomes familiarity, the familiarity that becomes something more, the forgetting that feels like remembering. Days stretched into weeks, and as they spoke by the well each evening, familiarity became attachment. He found himself thinking of her when they were apart, planning what he would say next, and attachment became life. Marriage followed naturally, then children, then the complete texture of domestic existence. 12 years passed, not symbolic years, fully lived time. Fields tilled season after season, children born, nursed, taught their first words. Joy arrived in moments of harvest and celebration. Loss followed in the death of a parent, the failure of crops. The complete texture of a human life experienced from inside was what happened to Narada. Then came calamity. Flood waters rose without warning, not gently, not slowly. The torrent arrived with terrifying speed and force. Everything was lost. His home swept away, his fields destroyed, and worse, far worse, his family taken by rushing waters before his eyes. Narada cried out, not as a sage, not as a philosopher, but as a man whose entire world had collapsed in moments. Raw and primal grief. In that cry, the world vanished, and Narada stood by the well again, water pot still in hand. Krishna exactly where he'd been, waiting patiently, as if no time had passed at all. Narada, you have taken a long time. Where is my water? Asks Krishna. The question lands like thunder in silence. Narada looks at Krishna, then the water pot in his hands, and then back at Krishna. 12 years have passed, an entire lifetime has been lived, and yet no time has passed at all. Now here's the paradox. Nothing was false. His love for his wife was real. His grief at her loss was real. His responsibilities as a father were real. His suffering in the flood was real. Every moment was genuinely experienced, felt with full intensity, lived from the inside with complete authenticity. There was no deception, no falsehood in the experience itself. Yet, from another standpoint, none of it had ultimately happened. Not in the sense that it was imaginary or unreal while occurring, but in the sense that when the veil lifted, the entire structure dissolved without remainder. This tension, this seeming impossibility, is the birthplace of Maya. Not a simple concept to be grasped intellectually, but a living paradox to be contemplated, explored, and perhaps eventually realized. Vedanta makes a bold claim, ekam iva advityam. Reality is one without a second. This is perhaps the most audacious claim in the history of philosophy. Not merely that reality is unified or interconnected or ultimately harmonious, but that reality is literally non-dual, that there is only one reality, one existence, one consciousness. Everything else is appearance, modification, or misunderstanding of this singular truth. The Sanskrit phrase comes from the Chandogya Upanishad, and it has echoed through centuries of philosophical discourse, meditation practice, and contemplative inquiry. But if this is true, we face an immediate and pressing problem. Our human experience insists that there are many objects in the world, many separate selves, time, change, and causation, real differences and distinctions that we experience every day, genuine suffering and joy. Yet, what Vedanta claims is non-dual reality, a changeless existence, a singular consciousness, no ultimate multiplicity, beyond subject-object division. How can non-dual reality appear as a world of difference without ceasing to be non-dual? This is not a trivial puzzle to be solved with clever reasoning. It cuts to the heart of what reality is, what consciousness is, and how the fundamental nature of existence relates to our lived experience. That is the problem that Maya addresses. Now, in the early Upanishads, the earliest appearance of the term, particularly in the Svetasvatara Upanishad, Maya does not mean illusion or deception. Instead, it carries connotation of power, the capacity to manifest, create or produce, artistry, the skill of a craftsman or magician, manifestation, the act of bringing forth what was potential. Ishvara, the Lord, is described as Mayavin, the wielder of Maya. This is not a criticism, but a description of divine creative power. The one expresses itself as many through Maya, like an artist expressing a vision through various forms and colors. Advaita, however, takes a decisive turn, and this begins with Shankara. Brahman is absolutely real, Sat, unchanging, eternal, beyond all qualification. The logical consequence of this is that Brahman is without attributes, nirguna. Any attribute would be a limitation or modification. And the radical conclusion reached is that the world cannot be a real transformation of Brahman. If Brahman changed, it would cease to be absolute. With Adi Shankara in the 8th century, we witness a radical philosophical turn where earlier Vedanta allowed for real transformation, parinama of Brahman into the world. Shankara insists that this is impossible. Yet the world appears to us, and this seeming impossibility requires a new understanding of Maya, one that will define Advaita Vedanta for centuries to come. Now we deal with two concepts, parinama, not creation, and vivarta or appearance. The world is not real modification or transformation of Brahman. Brahman does not become the world the way milk becomes yogurt or clay becomes a pot. Such transformation would require change, and Brahman is changeless, hence not creation, parinama. Instead, the world is an apparent manifestation. It appears to exist as separate from Brahman, without Brahman actually undergoing any modification whatsoever. The appearance is real as appearance, but the separation is not ultimately true. Appearance here is called vivarta. Just as Narada did not become another person, yet appeared to live another life, so too Brahman does not become the world, yet the world appears. The classic example, a rope appears as a snake in dim light. The appearance is real, the fear is real, but the snake was never actually there. Yet this example has limitations, as all analogies do. One very important concept in Advaita is mithya. The world is experienced. We genuinely perceive objects, people, and events. The world is functional. Cause and effect operate reliably within empirical reality. The world is governed by moral law. Actions have consequences. Karma functions. The world is meaningful. Relationships, purposes, and values are not dismissed, but not ultimately real. The world is mithya, neither absolutely real, sat, nor completely unreal, asat. It has a dependent, provisional, empirical reality. That is where true knowledge arises. Think again of Narada's 12 years, real while lived, not real in the final reckoning. This is the precise technical meaning of mithya. So, in classic Advaitic reasoning, what is real, sat, is never contradicted in any time or place, exists in the past, present, and future. And the example of this is Brahman or pure consciousness. What is unreal, asat, is never experienced at any time, completely non-existent. The example given is the son of a barren woman, a square circle. What is mithya? Experienced during a certain period, but later sublated or contradicted. Example, the snake rope, dream experiences, the empirical world. Narada's 12-year life was real while it lasted, genuinely experienced, fully functional. It was not real in the final reckoning, sublated when the illusion lifted. And this is the meaning of mithya, dependent reality that cannot withstand ultimate scrutiny. We have two levels of reality as per Advaita: Vyavaharika, the empirical level, and Paramarthika, the absolute level. At the empirical level, the lived transactional world where multiplicity appears, where karma operates, where we act and interact, is valid for all practical purposes. At the absolute level, there is the ultimate and final truth, non-dual Brahman alone, beyond all distinctions, realized through knowledge, unchanging and eternal. Not two separate truths, therefore, one truth from two standpoints. Maya marks the boundary between these perspectives. From the Vyavaharika standpoint, the world is real and must be engaged seriously. From the Paramarthika standpoint, only Brahman is ultimately real. Both are valid in their context, yet one is higher than the other. Visistadvaita of Ramanuja provided an alternative, and this was one of the schools, like many others, that did not accept Shankara's interpretation. Ramanuja, in the 11th century, the founder of Visistadvaita, qualified non-dualism, offered a profoundly different view. He said the world is real, not mithya, but a genuine modification of Brahman. Souls are real. Individual cells are eternal attributes of Brahman. And everything is dependent on Brahman. Like body to soul, the world is Brahman's body. Maya is therefore a divine power and not an illusion. For Ramanuja, Maya retains its earlier Upanishadic meaning, the Lord's creative power. This difference matters greatly. It affects how we understand the world, ethical action, devotion, and the path to liberation. The philosophical states are high. So Krishna did not deny Narada's suffering. He did not tell Narada that his grief was false, that his love was unreal, or that his experience was merely imaginary. The tears were real tears, the loss was genuine loss. Nor did he affirm it as ultimate. He did not agree that 12 years had passed, that Narada had truly married and raised a family, or that the flood had actually occurred. The ultimate truth was different from the experienced reality. Krishna simply waited. He waited for Narada to return, waited for the experience to run its course, waited with the patience of one who knows that all appearances eventually dissolve, all dreams eventually end, all illusions eventually give way to recognition. This waiting, this patient presence may be the deepest teaching of all. The true meaning, therefore, is that Maya is not deception. It is misplaced finality. And this is perhaps the most important insight to carry forward. Maya does not mean that the world is an illusion in the sense that it does not exist at all. Rather, it means we mistake the provisional for the ultimate, the dependent for the independent, the appearance for the absolute. We treat our experiences, identities, relationships, and concerns as if they were finally real, as if they had independent, unchanging existence. This is the error. Not that they don't exist at all, but that we grant them a status they don't possess. Liberation, in this view, is not escape from the world, but recognition of its due nature. It is waking up within the dream, seeing through the appearance without denying it, living fully while knowing that this too shall pass. This too is appearance. This too rests in something greater. And as we explore the intersection of ancient wisdom and contemporary understanding, we are looking at one of the most sophisticated and debated concepts in Indian philosophy. Whether you find yourself drawn to Shankara's radical non-dualism or Ramanuja's qualified non-dualism, the concept of Maya opens profound questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and human experience. We invite you to continue this exploration through contemplation, study, and practice. The story of Narada is not just an ancient tale. It points to something you might recognize in your own experience. Perhaps you too have awakened from a dream that felt completely real. Perhaps you too have had moments when the solid world seemed strangely insubstantial. May this investigation serve your own journey towards clarity, wisdom, and liberation. If you like what we do here at the Neurokrish Immersion, do like and subscribe. We are on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify. Thank you so much.